And before we go, today was a special day here at the station as we celebrated with our own KALB crawfish boil. Boiling water was flavored with special blend of Cajun seasonings, and then 240 pounds of crawfish were picked out, dropped into the boiling water in 3 different boiling pots. Then pounds of crawfish were served to each table. The KALB employees could peel and can eat unlimited piles of hot crawfish, and there was also a buffet of potatoes and corn, and hamburgers were served as an alternate to some people. The KALB staff even got to play games of bingo while the crawfish were cooking.
Bingo! Let's go!
I guess my first gauge if crawfish is like on the right side or not is the claws. I mean, these things are huge.
Nobody does crawfish like Louisiana does crawfish.
These are really good. I'd say 10.
It is worth it. It's delicious.
They're big, they're juicy, and 10 out of 10.
Not much for seafood myself. I prefer the land animals.
The burger bunch.